Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. My wife has long maintained that I am stuck in the 1980s, but I have no idea what she means. Anyway, perhaps that's the reason I have always had a fascination with the Breitling Aerospace. The original Aerospace was launched slap bang in the middle of the decade in 1985. Now, Breitling watches tend to be a little bit brash, a little bit in your face at the best of times, so one from one of the flashiest and most in your face decades in recent memory has got to be right up there with the flashiest and most in your face of them all. But it's not just about the show. There's a fair amount of admittedly 1980s technology packed into the current Aerospace. It's a chronometer, it's a chronograph, it's ani-digi, it's made of titanium, it's super light, and I think it looks amazing. Now, I don't think they're as cheap as they used to be. I think a lot of watch brands have pushed the prices up over the last few years, and you certainly can't find the bargain Aerospaces that were around a few years ago. I almost picked up a new one in 2018, but it was blue and I wanted a black one, so when a black one came up for sale, being sold by a friend of mine on an Australian watch group that I'm a member of, I jumped at it. Now, this was in about October last year. You may remember the Aerospace appearing towards the end of my State of the Collection video 2019. But I haven't made the review video yet. And I'm afraid I've got a bit of a confession. I just sold it. So this is a hello Aerospace and goodbye Aerospace video at the same time. What went on? Let's flip the camera and find out. What went on indeed? Perhaps not quite a catch and release. I ended up having this one in the house for about 6 months. I think there were probably two main reasons why this one didn't stick. It didn't end up staying permanently in my top box. And I'll talk about those over the course of the video. Plenty of packaging, but then again, you'd expect some nice packaging for 5,690 Australian dollars. Now, I don't think too many people pay that price for the Breitling Aerospace. That's the price that Breitling quote. If you go to one of their authorised dealers, you should be getting a fair chunk off that. Now, I was actually the third owner. Two friends of mine kind of bought it and flipped it between them, and I've now flipped it on to another owner. I think everybody took a little bit of a hit as the chain has progressed. Breitling's a little bit soft in the used market, shall we say, but the watch is spectacular. It's everything I thought it was going to be. I must say though, I am delighted that it happens to be 10 minutes to 2, the old watch reviewer's favourite, because I don't fancy having to set and reset this one every time I wanted to show you the dial in its best light. Just look at that anti-reflective coating. It is quite incredible. I guess there's kind of two states with this one, either crazy blue purple or the glass doesn't exist at all. It's just remarkable how Breitling do this. I think that's kind of one of the differences between paying big money for a luxury style watch and paying less money for a watch that doesn't have quite the same level of build. The glass, the crystal, this anti-reflective coating utilised so remarkably well on this watch. Anyway, let's get on with some dimensions and specifications. Just over 43mm in diameter, this one. They increased the size of the Aerospace a few years ago, moving it up from 40, where it started in 1985, up to 42, and then up to its current size of 43.5, but less than 11mm thick, 10.8mm thick, about 51.5 lug tip to lug tip, but there is a bit of curvature there, 22mm lug width, tapering down to 20, back up to 21 at the clasp, 21.5 at the clasp, and sized up for me, this one weighs in at a remarkable 99 grams because it is made of titanium. Titanium everywhere, titanium case, crown, bezel, full titanium bracelet, titanium clasp, we've got titanium screws, everything in this watch is made of titanium, hence the fact that it is super, super light. That is one of the main reasons why I bought this one, is because even though it's a big watch, it doesn't wear necessarily like a big watch. It wears very light indeed. One of the other reasons I bought it was for this remarkable movement. Perhaps I should condition that by saying remarkable for 1985. They call it the Breitling 79 Super Quartz. It's thermal compensated, chronometer certified, accurate to within plus or minus 15 seconds per year. Like I say, I got this one about 6 months ago. I set the time once and wasn't planning on setting it again for the next couple of years. Obviously, you have a two-hand analog layout there, meaning you don't get that ticking second hand. Now, I know the ticking hand offends a lot of people on quartz. One way of bypassing it is by not having a second hand at all. However, that doesn't mean to say you don't have that capacity. Dual digi display here, all operated by the crown. Dual gasket crown as well, 100 meters of water resistance. I've been in and out of the water with this one, no problem at all. If you roll that crown forward, you've got to give it a bit of a roll. There we are. It's got an alarm built in, this one. Roll it further forward, start, stop, hold down, reset. Roll it further forward and you have a second time zone. Roll it again, you have a countdown timer. Roll one further forward and you have the day of the week and date of the month. Roll it again and you have the date of the month and a ticking second. Roll it forward one last time and you have a replication on the digital display of the analog display. Now that's great at night. I should point out this watch does have lume. It's got pretty decent lume as well, as you can see here. It does hang on in a lot better than I was expecting it to. I'd heard the lume wasn't all that fantastic before I bought it, but I was pleasantly surprised. I will say though, the amount of lume on the hour hand is a bit disappointing. I'm not sure why they skeletonized it to the degree that they did. I guess that's so you can see the digi display, but it does impinge on the legibility of the second hand in a lume type scenario. If you give that crown a more gentle roll forward rather than the brisk ones I was previously doing, it does engage an electroluminescent backlight, so you can use most of the features after dark. But if you're in a James Bond type scenario and your hands are tied behind your back, but you can still manage to get a hold of your Breitling, you can hold the crown and it will speak the time. 2 o'clock, there you are, you heard it. It's like a kind of Morse code of timekeeping. It breaks it up into the hours and then the quarter hour sections thereafter. It's pretty easy to work out the time audibly once you get used to the system. The bracelet is all titanium, as I mentioned, and they have that funny looking Breitling angular link thing that I know a lot of people don't go for. Let's be honest, a lot of people aren't going to go for this watch at all. It's a bit of an acquired taste. Now that is obviously a piece of dead flat sapphire crystal with the insane amounts of purple blue anti-reflective coating. Bezel is also made of titanium. It has got one of the most disproportionately large lume pips of any watch on the market. Very nice action though, 120 click, unidirectional. So there are various things you can do to time something on this watch. You can use the bezel obviously, but it also has the built-in stopwatch as I showed you earlier on. And while we're here, let's just have one more shot of that audible timekeeping. 6 minutes past 2. Popping a link to show you the screw-on titanium case back there. I just adore that big Breitling flying bee with the anchor there, the Breitling logo, and 1884. I think definitely one of the best logos in the watch industry, full stop. I'm not quite sure why they removed it from the current crop of Navitimers, but there you are, trying to modernise, I guess. Maybe I am just stuck in the 80s after all. Now, this is a pilot's watch, and there are various conversion scales on the back. Obviously, I have not even bothered to learn what any of those mean, because I don't have a plane. And that's it on wrist. It has a fabulous colour, this one. Obviously titanium looks quite different from stainless steel. Unfortunately, titanium does scratch up far more readily than stainless steel. It's just something you have to get used to if you want to wear a titanium watch on a regular basis. And indeed, I got a few scuffs and scratches on this one. Nothing too desperate over the course of the 6 months or so that I owned it, but it does look pretty sensational there, especially with that mad anti-reflective. Now the dial is rather dominated by those enormous Arabics applied at 12, 3, 6 and 9. The handset does seem a little bit small by comparison to the Arabics and the big Breitling wings above the pinion. And as I said, they could have done with adding a little bit more coverage in terms of lume, making that hour hand a bit more solid than they have. I think it would have helped with legibility overall, but then again, you've always got the digi above 6 if you want to see what the time is. And when you take this watch outside, that anti-reflective coating does its party tricks as usual. I just love that titanium colour. I've reviewed a number of titanium watches costing under $1,000, so if you're keen on one of these but don't quite have the budget to stretch for aerospace, then there's certainly some around, but I don't think any of them look quite like this one, do they? And that's it on my wrist. Super slim at less than 11mm, fairly long lug to lug though, but those lugs do curve down around the edges. So why was it a short-lived affair then with the Breitling Aerospace? What are the two things that I intimated earlier on? Well, the first is the size. It may well weigh next to nothing at under 100 grams, but that can't disguise the fact when you look down on your wrist that you are wearing 43.5mm of watch. That's just a little outside of my personal envelope, and I always felt it was a bit too big on wrist. I tried it on in the shop before I bought it. I was a bit sneaky. I popped into Breitling and tried one on and I thought it was okay, but after a few weeks of owning it, it just looked a little bit too large, I felt, for my wrist. And then there's the cost. I didn't pay 5,690 Aussie dollars for it, nor nothing like it. I probably paid about 60% of that, but it was still the most expensive watch I've ever bought and still spent most of its time in my watch box. I got a little bit twitchy about having that much money in a box doing nothing. So I decided to flip it. I am becoming a bit of a serial flipper after all. I put it on the same watch group that I bought it from, and within a couple of days, a very pleasant gentleman who happens to be a policeman in Western Australia. I wonder if he knows Chris Essery, or perhaps they'll get acquainted at some point in the near future. He expressed an interest, we did a deal, and it will be on the way to him by the time you watch this video. So there you have it, the Breitling Aerospace Evo Titanium. Perhaps an itch that I had to scratch at some point, and I'm delighted to have scratched that itch. It's a great watch, but I just felt it was a little bit big for me, just a little bit too big on my wrist, and it was a lot of money to have sitting in a watch box if I wasn't going to be wearing it on a regular basis. All the best to its new owner. I hope it's a long-term affair for him. It was just a fling for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.